Hey there, science fans! Welcome back to another episode where we dive into the weird, the wonderful, and sometimes the downright wacky things our bodies do. Today we're tackling a topic that's both hilarious and a little mysterious: fainting at the sight of blood. You might have seen it in movies, or maybe you've even witnessed it in real life. It's one of those things that seems almost cartoonish, but trust me, it's a real phenomenon that happens to more people than you might think. Have you ever seen someone faint at the sight of blood? Maybe it was a friend during a biology class dissection or a family member at the doctor's office. One moment they're standing tall, and the next, boom, they're on the floor out cold. It can be shocking, a little scary, and let's be honest, sometimes a bit funny once you know they're okay. It's like their body just goes, "Nope, I'm out," and shuts down, almost as if someone flipped their off switch. But what's really going on here? Why does a little bit of blood send some people's systems into a total shutdown? It's a funny glitch, right? We laugh about it, but for the people who experience it, it can be embarrassing or even a little worrying. Still, it's one of those quirks that makes us human, and it's worth understanding what's happening behind the scenes. I mean, blood is important stuff. It's the life juice that keeps us going, carrying oxygen and nutrients to every single cell in our bodies. Without it, we wouldn't last long. So why would seeing something so essential make us pass out? For some people, just the sight of blood, whether it's a tiny paper cut or a scraped knee, triggers a wild reaction. Their heart might start racing, their skin goes pale, and before they know it, they're feeling dizzy or lightheaded. Sometimes, they don't even have time to sit down before their body decides to hit the emergency stop button. We call this phenomenon fainting at the sight of blood, or more scientifically, Vasovagal syncope. It's a fancy term for a very simple thing. Your body overreacts to a trigger, and you faint. But why does it happen? Why do some people get queasy or faint, while others can watch a horror movie marathon without batting an eye? It's a question that's puzzled scientists and doctors for years. Well, it all starts with our brains. The brain is the command center for everything we do, from breathing to running to, yes, reacting to blood. When you see blood, your brain gets a signal that something might be wrong. Our brains are amazing organs, but sometimes they can get a little confused. Instead of sending out the usual fight or flight response, which would make your heart race and your muscles tense, your brain does the opposite. In this case, the brain gets a signal that there's a danger, blood, and instead of gearing up for action, it tells your body to slow everything down. Your heart rate drops, your blood pressure falls, and suddenly, there's not enough blood getting to your brain. But instead of going into fight or flight mode, it goes into, oops, I'm gonna faint mode. Your body is trying to protect you, but it's a bit of a misfire. By making you faint, your body is actually trying to get you to lie down, so blood can flow more easily to your brain and you can recover. It's like your brain accidentally hit the wrong button and now the whole system is rebooting. Weird, right? It's almost as if your body is running on a really old operating system that sometimes glitches out when it gets confused. Some scientists think this reaction might be a leftover from our ancient ancestors. Back in the day, if you were injured and bleeding, fainting could help you survive by making you less noticeable to predators or by slowing your blood loss. It's a theory, but it shows just how strange and fascinating our bodies can be. But don't worry, we're going to break down exactly why this happens, what's going on inside your body, and what you can do if you or someone you know is prone to fainting at the sight of blood. There are even some simple tricks and tips that can help you stay on your feet. From learning how to breathe deeply, to tensing your muscles, there are ways to train your body to handle these situations better. And remember, if you ever feel faint, it's always okay to sit down and ask for help. So buckle up, science fans. Get ready to explore the strange, surprising, and sometimes silly world of fainting at the sight of blood. Let's dive in and discover what makes our bodies tick, and sometimes, what makes them take a little nap. So, what's the science behind this funny fainting act? The technical term is vasovagal syncope. Sounds complicated, right? But it's actually pretty simple. Vaso refers to blood vessels, and vagal refers to the vagus nerve, which is a long nerve that runs from our brain to our heart and other organs. Think of your vagus nerve like a circuit breaker in your house. When it detects a sudden drop in blood pressure, it flips the switch to prevent damage. This causes your heart rate to slow down and your blood vessels to widen, which can lead to fainting. It's like your body's way of hitting the reset button. Now you might be wondering, why does my vagus nerve freak out at the sight of blood? Good question. It's not actually the blood itself that causes the problem. It's the thought of blood, or the sight of an injury, that triggers the reaction. See, our brains are hardwired to keep us safe from anything that might harm us. This protective instinct is deeply rooted in our biology, going all the way back to our earliest ancestors. Back then, being able to quickly spot danger, like a predator lurking in the bushes or a sudden injury, could mean the difference between life and death. Our brains evolved to be on high alert, always scanning for threats, and ready to react in an instant. For many people, blood is one of those universal signals of danger. It's not just about the sight of blood itself, but what it represents: injury, pain, and the possibility that something is wrong. Even if you know logically that a small cut isn't a big deal, your body can't help but react as if it's a major emergency. So when we see blood, whether it's our own or someone else's, our brains immediately jump to the conclusion that something bad has happened. It's almost automatic. You might feel your stomach drop, your palms get sweaty, or your heart start to race. It's your body's way of saying, "Pay attention, this could be serious." And the wild part is, this reaction can happen even if it's just a tiny cut on your finger. You could be slicing vegetables, get a little nick, and suddenly your body is acting like you've been seriously hurt. It doesn't matter how minor the injury is, your brain and body are primed to respond. When this happens, your body sets off a chain reaction. Your heart rate, which might have sped up at first, suddenly slows down, your blood pressure drops, and you might start to feel lightheaded, dizzy, or even a little bit disconnected from your surroundings. This is all thanks to a powerful nerve in your body called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is like your body's emergency brake. When it senses that you're overwhelmed or in danger, it can trigger a response that makes you feel faint or woozy. You might start to see stars, your vision could blur, and you may feel like you're about to pass out. It's your body's way of trying to protect you, even if it doesn't always feel helpful in the moment. It's really important to remember that fainting at the sight of blood isn't a sign that you're weak or overly dramatic. In fact, it's a completely natural response that many people experience. Your body is just doing its best to keep you safe, even if it sometimes overreacts. Think of it as your body's alarm system going off a little too easily. It's not about being tough or brave, it's about how your nervous system is wired. Some people's vagus nerves are just more sensitive than others, and that's okay. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It's a lot like when you're watching a scary movie. You know it's just a film, but when something jumps out on the screen or there's a sudden loud noise, you can't help but react. You might jump, gasp, or even cover your eyes. Your body is responding to a perceived threat, even if you know deep down that you're safe. These kinds of reflexes are built into us. They're automatic, and they happen before we even have a chance to think about them. It's just your body's natural response to something it thinks might be dangerous. But with blood, instead of jumping or screaming, your body might decide the best way to protect you is to make you faint. It's a strange response, but it's actually your body's way of trying to keep you from losing too much blood or getting hurt even more. So, the next time you see someone faint at the sight of blood, try not to judge them or think they're being overly sensitive. They're not doing it on purpose, and it's not something they can control. Their body is just reacting the way it was designed to. Just remember, their vagus nerve is working overtime to keep them safe, even if it means taking a little nap on the floor. So be kind, offer a helping hand, and know that this quirky reaction is just another fascinating part of how our bodies work. Now you might be thinking, okay, but how do we know it's the thought of blood that causes fainting, and not the blood itself? It's a great question, and one that has puzzled scientists and everyday people alike for years. After all, blood is just a liquid. So why does it have such a powerful effect on some of us? Is it something about the way it looks, the color, or maybe even the way we think about it? To get to the bottom of this mystery, we need to look at how our minds and bodies react to different triggers. and how our brains interpret what we see. That's where science comes in. Researchers have long been fascinated by the strange and sometimes dramatic ways our bodies respond to certain sights and thoughts. They've set up experiments in controlled environments using all sorts of clever methods to figure out what's really going on when people faint at the sight of blood. These studies help us separate fact from fiction and give us a clearer picture of what's happening inside our brains. Scientists have conducted experiments to test this very question. They wanted to know, is it the actual blood, or just the idea of blood, that makes people feel faint? To find out, they invited volunteers into the lab and carefully monitored their reactions to different images and scenarios. By measuring things like heart rate, blood pressure, and even brain activity, they could see exactly how people responded in real time. In one particularly interesting study, researchers showed participants two different images, one of fake blood and one of ketchup. At first glance, these two substances look almost identical. They're both red, thick, and a little bit messy. But there's a big difference in how our minds interpret them. Now, ketchup is red and gooey, just like blood. It's something most of us see all the time on fries, burgers, or even just sitting in the fridge. It doesn't usually make anyone feel queasy or lightheaded. In fact, for many people, ketchup is a comfort food, associated with happy memories and tasty meals. But it doesn't carry the same psychological weight. When people looked at the ketchup, their bodies stayed calm. Their heart rates and blood pressure barely changed, and they didn't report feeling anxious or dizzy. It was just another ordinary object, nothing to worry about. And guess what? When participants saw the picture of blood, even though it was fake, their bodies reacted very differently. Many experienced a noticeable drop in blood pressure and heart rate, and some even felt lightheaded or on the verge of fainting. This dramatic response happened even though the blood wasn't real and there was no danger present. It was all about what their brains believed they were seeing. This suggests that it's not the physical properties of blood that trigger fainting, but rather our psychological association with it. Our brains have learned over time to connect the sight of blood with danger, injury, or pain. This deep-rooted association can cause our bodies to react automatically, even when we know, logically, that we're safe. It's a fascinating example of how powerful our minds can be, and how our thoughts and emotions can influence our physical health in surprising ways. So, if you're someone who faints at the sight of blood, don't worry, you're not alone. In fact, this reaction is more common than you might think. Millions of people around the world experience the same thing. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It's just a quirk of how our brains are wired, and it's something you can learn to manage with a little practice and understanding. It's just your brain playing tricks on you. Our minds are incredibly powerful, and sometimes they can convince us that we're in danger, even when we're perfectly safe. The good news is, once you understand what's happening, you can start to take control of your reactions. But what can you do about it? Is there a way to train your brain to stay calm, even when you see blood? The answer is yes. With a few simple techniques, you can teach your body to respond differently, and even prevent fainting before it starts. Well, there are actually some simple techniques that can help prevent fainting. For example, practicing deep, slow breathing can help keep your blood pressure steady. Tensing and relaxing your muscles, especially in your legs, can also help keep blood flowing to your brain. And, over time, gradually exposing yourself to the sight of blood in a safe, controlled way can help your brain learn that there's nothing to fear. With patience and practice, you can take back control and face these situations with confidence. One effective technique is called the applied tension technique. It's super easy to do. All you have to do is clench the muscles in your arms, legs, and core for about 10 to 15 seconds, then release. Repeat this cycle several times. This helps to increase your blood pressure and prevent fainting. It's like giving your vagus nerve a little pep talk saying, "Hey, everything's cool, no need to panic." You can practice the applied tension technique anywhere, anytime. You can do it while you're waiting in line at the grocery store, while you're watching TV, or even while you're reading this essay. The more you practice, the more effective it will become. So there you have it. The science behind fainting at the sight of blood is actually pretty fascinating. It's all thanks to our amazing and sometimes quirky brains and our hard-working vagus nerves. Remember, fainting at the sight of blood is not a sign of weakness, it's just your body's way of overreacting to a perceived threat. And if you're someone who faints at the sight of blood, don't worry. There are techniques you can use to prevent it. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever fainted at the sight of blood? Or do you know someone who has? Share your funny fainting stories in the comments below. And remember, keep exploring the world with curiosity and a sense of wonder. Science rules.